shaking things up in the creative world.
It's crazy, like, how spot on this is. What will this career path look like in the next 5 years or 10 years? All right, so let's get real for a second. AI in creative direction. Is it a groundbreaking revolution, or is it the death of true human creativity as we know it? Today we're going to dive headfirst into this very controversial debate that's really shaking up the creative industry right now. Is artificial intelligence another tool for our tool belt, or is it a threat to the soul of creativity itself? What better way to really dive into this than to have a really honest and in-depth discussion with ChatGPT about these exact things. And what I figured out was really, really surprising. This is honestly kind of crazy. But before we go any further, leave a comment on this. Tell me what you guys think about AI. Tell me how you guys are utilizing it in your own work. All right, let's get right into it. Hello, ChatGPT. How are you doing?
Hey, Evan. I'm doing well, thanks. How's everything going with you?
Everything's going pretty good. I wanted to do an interview with you, and I want to have a really honest and candid discussion about artificial intelligence and its role in creative careers. So I am a creative director. I work in the music industry, and I create content for artists. I have a really strong focus on brand and brand elements and trying to make sure that every creative asset is aligned with those elements. And there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence being a threat to those jobs. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
That sounds like an awesome topic, Evan. AI is definitely shaking things up in the creative world, especially in areas like branding and content creation. From my perspective, AI isn't necessarily a threat, but more of a tool that can enhance what creative directors like you do. It can automate some repetitive tasks, generate ideas quickly, or even offer fresh angles. But when it comes to truly understanding a brand's voice, identity, and the emotional connection that art brings to people, that's something AI can't fully replicate, at least not yet. Creative careers have a human element that revolves around storytelling, culture, and personal experiences. And that's where human intuition shines. What AI can do is help you streamline your process so you can spend more time focusing on that high-level creative strategy. How do you feel about the role of AI in your own projects right now? Do you see it as something that could enhance your work, or do you feel there are areas it might be overstepping?
I think that's a great and thoughtful answer. I will say this. I think the main concern that a lot of creatives have is that in a very short time, we've seen programs like DALL-E and Midjourney and all these photorealism apps really developing. I mean, even now, Dream Machine and all these other apps that are taking photos and turning them into video. There is a real threat, I think, for videographers, music video directors. I mean, this stuff is still in its infancy, and it's gotten wildly, wildly good in a very short amount of time. So I think the main concern stems from what will this career path look like in the next 5 years or 10 years?
That's a really valid concern. And you're right, these tools have evolved incredibly fast. The fact that AI-generated visuals can look so professional and polished in such a short time makes it feel like the creative industry is in for a major shift. For videographers, music video directors, and even designers, there's definitely a fear that AI will become a go-to for brands or artists looking for quick, cheap content. But here's the thing. While AI can do impressive things, it still lacks that deeper understanding of context, nuance, and emotion that creatives like you bring. It's one thing for AI to churn out realistic images or videos,
but how long until that happens?
But it doesn't grasp the storytelling, intention, or cultural resonance behind a project.
Yet.
That's where creatives will always have the upper hand. Even as these tools get better, the heart of a brand, the reason it connects with an audience, will still need someone like you to shape that vision. That said, you're totally right to wonder what things will look like in 5 or 10 years. It might mean creatives will have to adapt and shift roles a bit. Maybe there'll be more focus on creative direction and strategy while AI handles the execution. Or maybe it'll lead to a rise in AI-curated art where human oversight is still key. How do you think you'd feel about collaborating with AI rather than seeing it as competition? Would that be an exciting shift or a frustrating one?
So personally for me, I think that would be an exciting shift. Let me ask you this though. Let's start from square one. Let's say we are releasing a new musician into the country space. And he is 25 years old. It's Americana-based music, and he is a singer from, let's say, Oklahoma, where his roots are. Tell me a little bit about the foundation of where you would start his brand at and how we could grow it from there. Super vague question. I want to see kind of what it does with this.
Starting from square one with the new Americana artist, especially with Oklahoma roots, here's how I'd approach the foundation of his brand. First, I'd focus on his authenticity. Country and Americana are genres where storytelling, roots, and a sense of place are everything. So, I'd want to ground the brand in his connection to Oklahoma. What stories does he have from there? What about his upbringing, environment, and culture comes through in his music? The goal is to make the audience feel like they're getting to know him, not just his songs. For the brand, I'd start with a rustic but modern feel, kind of like bridging the old and new. Think visual elements like worn leather, vintage textures, or rugged landscapes, but with a clean, modern design so it doesn't feel too dated. The Oklahoma element can come through in his visuals too. Open plains, sunsets, maybe small town life. It's about creating a visual identity
this is
that
good.
feels as authentic as his sound. Next, I'd
But
establish
it's
him
done
as
a
an
lot.
authentic storyteller.
So I'm going to
Whether
ask
through
how
social
we can
media,
elevate this.
interviews, or content like vlogs or behind-the-scenes videos. The goal is to make his audience feel connected to his personal journey. Americana fans especially resonate with that authenticity, so having him speak openly about his background, his connection to the land, and his musical influences could build that trust and engagement early on. Once we've established that foundation, I'd grow the brand by focusing on community. Americana and country often thrive through grassroots movements. We could release acoustic sessions, have him play intimate shows in small town venues, and really lean into his Oklahoma identity to give his music a sense of place.
This is
We could
good,
even focus on
but it's low-hanging
collaborations
fruit.
with local
I want to get a
artists
little
or
deeper
folk
with it.
musicians who share similar vibes,
But it's not.
building
But
up a
it's.
network of
But it's
fans
good.
who feel like they're part of something special. Finally, as we grow, it's about making sure the music and visuals stay aligned with the brand. The storytelling stays rooted in who he is, while visually we can evolve, bringing in more cinematic, high production value elements as he gains more traction. But that authenticity, the Oklahoma roots, and the connection to Americana always stays at the core. Does that feel like a direction you'd go in for this artist? Or would you tweak any of those elements?
What are some solid ideas that we could do to explore to possibly elevate it from this space? Because this is a space in the country scene right now that is very oversaturated. There's a ton of artists that are doing that exact thing that you had just said. So whereas I don't think that's the wrong answer, what are some other ideas that we could do to really elevate this brand and make it stand out a little bit more within the space?
I completely get where you're coming from. There are a lot of artists in the Americana and country scene leaning on that same authentic
This is a
roots
good challenge
angle.
because it's
To really
very,
stand out, we
very,
need to take
very
that
broad.
foundation and push it into a more unique, compelling space. Here are a few ways we could elevate the brand. 1. Modern Americana with a twist. Instead of leaning solely into the Oklahoma small town life, we could explore the idea of a modern, almost subversive take on Americana. Think of someone who blends traditional sounds with unexpected influences. Maybe there's a bit of blues, punk attitude, or even experimental production that shakes up the norm. This way,
Yeah, a
he's
lot of that
not
depends
just
on like the
another
music itself.
rootsy artist, but someone challenging what Americana can sound like in 2024. For example, he could collaborate with indie or non-country artists, pulling in elements of other genres without straying too far from the heart of country. This would appeal to both traditional country fans and younger genre-blending listeners who are hungry for something fresh. Visually, we could embrace the grittier, raw elements of Americana, but with more edge, darker, moodier, almost rebellious imagery to create a contrast with the typical wholesome vibe. 2. Narrative-driven content. What if we took his brand to the next level by making storytelling a massive part of his identity, but not just through music? We could create an ongoing narrative, like a modern-day traveling troubadour. Maybe the artist has a backstory or persona built into his image, and we lean into the mythos
This
of a
is
wandering
honestly kind of
artist.
crazy.
We could create episodic content, documentary-style videos where he travels across America, exploring not only his roots,
I think
but
they're
other
right
people's
about
stories too.
all
These
this.
vignettes could be connected to the themes in his music, and they could show him interacting with unique characters, local traditions, or even historical spots in forgotten corners of America. This kind of multimedia narrative gives fans more than just music. It gives them a reason to invest in the artist's journey and makes him stand out as someone who isn't just releasing singles, but building a whole experience around his
This is
brand.
pretty crazy.
Iconic visual identity. Visually, we could make him instantly recognizable by building a more iconic brand around his look and aesthetic. Maybe he always wears a certain hat or jacket, or we create a custom visual motif that's consistently used across all his releases. It could be something abstract but tied to his music, like a specific logo, a visual mark, or a recurring color palette.
It's
that becomes
crazy,
synonymous
like
with him.
how spot on
We
this
could
is.
also tap into a
Like,
retro futuristic Americana aesthetic, mixing old and new in a way that feels fresh. Think a modern day cowboy and neon lit
there's
diners
definitely
or
things
vast
that you
open
can kind of
plains with
tighten up
subtle
about, like all these
technological
thoughts, but man,
elements
these
worked in.
thoughts are
By playing with
so
contrasts
far.
between past and future, you
I'm
create
gonna
a
wait for a minute.
unique visual identity that could make him feel like he's in a lane of his own. Cultural collaborations and crossovers. One way to really break the mold would be through non-traditional collaborations. He could partner with visual artists, fashion designers, or even chefs or craft breweries from Oklahoma or other Americana-rich
Yep.
areas. Imagine him working with a well-known tattoo
It's like
artist
building
on
out like a
custom
whole
merch line,
marketing plan
or
too.
curating playlists that feature a mix of Americana with artists from totally different genres. It could create cross-genre interest while still grounding him in his roots. For example, what if we explored collaborations with skateboarding culture or streetwear? Something that taps into a younger, non-country audience, giving him a rebellious
Brand
and edgy
integration.
association. This
It's
kind of
really,
crossover
really
can pull
freaking
him
good.
away from the oversaturated Americana space while still maintaining a connection to his core identity. Philosophical activist edge. If the artist has strong personal beliefs
Insane.
or philosophies, we could lean into an activist angle. Maybe he champions
It's
an
literally
important cause
covering
related
every
to his
angle
upbringing.
imaginable. This is
Environmentalism,
maybe not
small
every
town
angle, but this is
revitalization, Native
such a
American
good
heritage, or mental
starting
health in rural
point.
areas.
It's better than a good
By
starting
linking his
point.
music to something bigger than himself, we give fans a cause to rally around, creating deeper emotional connections. It could become part of his persona, where his music becomes a voice for the voiceless in places often overlooked by society. Does any of that resonate with how you'd want to push the brand? Which of these ideas do you think has the potential to give him that unique edge?
I think everything that you said is frighteningly spot on. Oh,
I think you got cut off there. What were you going to say?
so smart. I said, I think everything that you've said is frighteningly spot on. It kind of ties this whole discussion back to my original question. With everything that you've thought about, knowing very little about this fake artist, with everything that you have said and said about branding and different brand collaborations and aesthetics and storytelling elements, what's to make anybody think that we still need a human element for the foundation of all of these assets? Because everything that you've said is strikingly spot on. It would be very in line with what I would pitch as a creative director to this artist. So again, that question is, why do you still see a human element is important here?
That's such a great point. And I see exactly where you're coming from. I think the reason the human element is still crucial, even in a scenario like this, comes down to a few key things that AI can mimic but not truly replicate: intuition, emotion, and connection. First, AI is excellent at recognizing patterns and drawing from a massive data set to suggest ideas, but it doesn't have the human intuition that creative directors rely on to make gut decisions.
Yeah, true.
A lot of branding work, especially in music, requires a deep understanding of culture, trends, and timing. Humans can sense when a trend is on the rise, when something might hit emotionally with an audience, or when a risk is worth taking. We understand context in ways that AI just can't. For example, AI could suggest a brand collaboration that looks good on paper, but as a creative director, you can sense when something will resonate on a cultural or personal level. Second, the emotional connection is huge. Even if AI can generate spot-on ideas, it lacks the empathy to understand how an audience feels. When you're working with an artist, you're tapping into the emotional
The
core
empathy
of
thing
their
is,
story
that's a
and
very, very
translating
valid
that
point.
into visuals and experiences. AI can offer ideas, but it can't fully understand the nuances of a person's life story or the subtleties of the relationship between an artist and their audience. Finally, there's the issue of relationship building. A creative director doesn't just design or ideate, they're often mediators, collaborators, and trusted advisors to artists. Part of the job is earning that trust, understanding the artist's vision on a personal level, and guiding them through a creative journey. An AI can't form a relationship with an artist or interpret those subtle cues in a room when everyone is debating over creative decisions. So even though AI can deliver great ideas, like what I just pitched, the difference is that
Fair.
you, as a creative director, know how to feel out what's right for that artist at that exact moment. You can navigate the emotional and cultural landscape in a way that's deeply personal, and that's something AI can't truly imitate. Does that resonate
Yet.
with how you approach your work? Or do you think we're moving toward a time when that human intuition could be less relevant?
I am concerned that we might be moving toward a time when that human intuition might be less relevant, but at the same time, I do have hope that there will still need to be a human touch within all of these assets. I think you're right. I think, again, the main concern and the main reason I wanted to do this entire video was because I do think AI is expanding and growing at a rate that is insane. So I do think that there will come a time when AI will be able to pick up on nuances and it will be able to kind of have these more human characteristics to it. However, with that being said, I think, like we said, as a tool, all of your ideas have been spot on with kind of how to start a brand and how to implement things from the ground level. Of course, there's a lot more that goes on to it when you are working with an actual artist rather than this kind of fake guy from Oklahoma. This has been a super interesting interview, and so I want to say thank you for the knowledge that you have given to me and my viewers, and I think it's something that we can all utilize and kind of put forward into how we think about creative direction within the next 5 years, within the next 10 years, and what that looks like on all of those larger levels. So, do I think that AI is going to start taking over creative jobs in the future? The human element is important. The human element is something that we need to really lean into, and that includes ideas that might be a little bit outside of the box. I think those outside of the box ideas are going to be the ones that really lead in the next 5-10 years. I think the fact that you can tell an artificial intelligent bot about an artist, about their roots, about the music, and it can come up with this entire brand layout like ChatGPT did, is going to tell us that the human element is going to be more important now more than ever, because we're going to have to push away from those traditional elements and do something unique and do something different. And I think that that is really where we need to lean into right now as creators. But I think what's cool about this is it's going to free up creators to really do things that are more impactful and more important to them, and the perspective of the content that's going to come out in the next 5, 10, 15 years is going to be incredible, because it's going to have so much more of a personalized lens coming from it. And I think that that is really exciting, and I think that that is really important for creators to hold on to as AI gets better and better and better. So, you guys tell me, what did you think about the video? If you guys enjoyed this content, please like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you guys on the next one.